Hello, Midnights. You are listening to your favorite bedtime stories. Next up, the silent operative of Fort Meade, Lyn Buchanan, the science of remote viewing and the secrets of the seventh sense. We hope you enjoy our stories. Let us know where you are tuning in from. And while you're here, please consider subscribing to our channel. It really helps keeping these stories coming. Thank you. When people think of psychic spies, clairvoyance, or the hidden parapsychological programs of the Cold War, their minds usually conjure up cinematic images of darkened rooms, burning incense, crystal balls, and eccentric mediums draped in flowing robes. However, to truly understand the history of Lyn Buchanan, one must completely strip away this Hollywood romanticism. Lyn Buchanan represents the exact opposite of the classic esoteric figure. He is a pragmatic, highly disciplined, career military man, a computer specialist, data analyst, and linguist who, through a bizarre chain of bureaucratic coincidences and undeniable anomalous talents, was drawn into one of the most strictly guarded intelligence circles in the United States. Buchanan spent more than 8 years within the legendary Special Operations Unit based at Fort Meade, Maryland. Over the course of its existence, this unit operated under a variety of highly classified codenames, including Scan 8, Grill Flame, Center Lane, Sunstreak, and ultimately Project Stargate. His mission was as surreal as it was monumental, acting as a psychic spy. He was tasked with gathering intelligence on targets across the globe that were entirely inaccessible to conventional satellites. On-the-ground operatives, or electronic eavesdropping methods. What sets Buchanan apart is his fundamental, unshakable sobriety. He was not a man searching for spiritual enlightenment or cosmic revelations. For him, what he did was not magic. It was a flawed but highly structured information-gathering tool. He viewed the human consciousness much like a computer hard drive where data is stored in an incomplete or fragmented state, and he focused on developing methods to systematically reconstruct that data. After retiring from government service, he founded the institute known as Problem Solutions, innovations in New Mexico to pass these techniques onto the public, completely stripped of New Age mysticism. For Buchanan, remote viewing is not an exclusive club reserved for a chosen few, but a fundamental human capability that can be learned and trained, much like learning to play a musical instrument. Before Lyn Buchanan was confronted with the deepest recesses of the human mind, his world was one of crisp logic, linguistics, and complex computer systems. As a soldier and analyst for the United States Army, he held a security clearance so high it would overwhelm the average citizen. He was deeply embedded in the planning of nuclear tactical scenarios, a field where only the most psychologically stable, intensely loyal, and thoroughly pragmatic individuals are permitted to operate. There were absolutely no signs of a spiritual or mystical calling in his biography. The military had trained him to follow orders, maintain meticulous logs, and function flawlessly under immense psychological pressure. The ultimate turning point in his life occurred during a routine military stress management exercise. During phases of extreme overwork, soldiers were actively encouraged to utilize deep relaxation techniques. It was during one of these controlled sessions that Buchanan experienced an incident that permanently altered his psychological profile within the military bureaucracy. He underwent a profound, inexplicable shift in consciousness, during which he perceived highly precise, verifiably accurate information about events and distant locations that he had no possible way of knowing through conventional means. Simultaneously, strange physical phenomena began to manifest in his immediate environment. Whenever Buchanan found himself under massive psychological or emotional stress, complex computer systems in his vicinity would experience inexplicable glitches, software programs would inexplicably crash, or the hardware itself would physically fail. What is intensely discussed in classical parapsychology as unconscious psychokinesis or a poltergeist effect was viewed within the military hierarchy as an intolerable security risk to incredibly expensive mainframe computers. Rather than declaring him insane or giving him an unhonored discharge, the military apparatus reacted with its own cold, characteristically pragmatic logic. They looked for a strategic, operational use for this cognitive anomaly. At that time, the upper echelons of the Pentagon and the Defense Intelligence Agency were gripped by a paranoid fear that the Soviet Union was making unbreakable strides in the field of psychotronics, the Soviet term for parapsychological warfare. Intelligence reports indicated that the Soviets were attempting to influence human heartbeats through sheer thought projection and read classified Western documents from across the globe. The Army leadership went so far as to investigate whether Buchanan's stress-induced ability to disrupt electronics could be weaponized as a form of offensive psychokinesis, potentially allowing an operative to fry the computer systems of Soviet command centers from thousands of miles away. Buchanan himself remained extremely skeptical of these experiments throughout his life, noting that because these phenomena arose from purely unconscious stress, they could rarely be willed or precisely steered. The fundamental logic of the military command was simple. If the Soviets are doing it, we must do it too, and we need men like Buchanan, who possess unyielding military discipline, to force these wild, untamed talents into a strict, bureaucratic corset. Buchanan was promptly transferred to Fort Meade. He entered a world that felt like a living, waking dream, organized entirely by career bureaucrats carrying badges. When Lyn Buchanan arrived at the special unit in Fort Meade, he stepped into a department that existed in a permanent state of administrative metamorphosis. The program was forced to reinvent itself every few years, just to evade the prying eyes of inquisitive senators, budget auditors, and skeptical generals. Every single time a politician caught wind of the psychic squad and threatened a formal investigation, the project was hastily renamed to muddy the waters of the federal budget ledgers. The evolutionary journey of this classified program can be traced through its shifting cover names, each marking a new era of bureaucracy, funding, and operational focus. It all began in the early phase with a project known as Scanate. This era was primarily dedicated to tentative early experiments utilizing geographic coordinates, working closely with researchers at the Stanford Research Institute. This was followed by the phase known as Grill Flame. In this epoch, the program was operationalized and psychic spies were directly integrated into real-world intelligence operations managed by the Joint Chiefs of Staff. When the project later transitioned under the name Center Lane, it skillfully utilized the U.S. Army's highly classified secret contingency funds. During this period, the operational focus shifted massively toward the systematic training of new viewers under the direct tutelage of the method's creator, Ingo Swann. With the next bureaucratic name change to Sunstreak, the program officially shifted into the hands of the Defense Intelligence Agency. This transition brought a drastically increased level of bureaucratic oversight, as well as a rigid standardization of all operational protocols. The final and today most globally recognized phase was ultimately consolidated under the name Project Stargate. This phase brought together all parapsychological efforts from various government agencies into a single umbrella, where it remained until the entire enterprise was declassified and formally shut down in 1995. Within the walls of Fort Meade, however, there was not only an administrative war raging, but also a deep methodological duel between two entirely different camps of parapsychological espionage: controlled remote viewing, CRV, and extended remote viewing, ERV. While Lyn Buchanan was the absolute champion of structured, wide-awake CRV, other factions within the unit heavily favored the ERV protocol. Extended remote viewing was what the public classically envisions as a psychic trance. The operative would lie down in a completely darkened, soundproofed room on a soft couch, wrapped in heavy blankets. intentionally lowering their brainwave activity into the deep theta range through specialized breathing and relaxation techniques. A designated monitor, a psychological facilitator, would sit beside the operative, verbally guiding the viewer's untethered mind through the intended target area. Buchanan largely rejected ERV as a primary methodology. He argued that the sleep-like state of ERV made the operative far too vulnerable to the unconscious suggestion or leading questions of the monitor. If a monitor phrased a question poorly, the viewer could easily drift off into a subjective fantasy world. By contrast, the CRV method favored by Buchanan relied on a highly structured written process that left behind a flawless, verifiable paper trail known as an audit trail. For Buchanan, intelligence work was not about having mystical experiences on a couch. It was about hard, documented data that could withstand the rigorous cross-examination of intelligence analysts. To understand what Lyn Buchanan did on a daily basis, one must sharply separate the term remote viewing from general mediumship or classic clairvoyance. In the civilian world, remote viewing is often used today as a loose catch-all phrase for any form of extrasensory perception. Buchanan fought vehemently against this dilution. For him, true controlled remote viewing is an exact, almost mechanical science. The father of the process, Ingo Swann, realized that the greatest obstacle to retrieving psychic information is not the collection of the data itself. The human subconscious, according to this theory, is permanently connected to the grand information field of the universe. The actual problem is the conscious, rational mind. The moment the subconscious receives a faint, non-verbal signal, the analytical brain activates, attempts to interpret the signal instantly, leaps to premature conclusions, and corrupts the data using desires, fears, and vocabulary pulled from its own personal memory bank. Swann termed this mental interference analytical overlay, commonly abbreviated as AOL. If a viewer, for instance, perceives the raw impression of a tall, gray, rough cylinder, the conscious mind immediately leaps to a conclusion. It's a medieval castle. At that exact moment, the session is compromised because the viewer will spend the rest of the time visualizing a castle from their imagination, even though the actual target might be a massive industrial cooling silo located within a Soviet nuclear installation. Controlled remote viewing was therefore engineered as a strict, stage protocol designed to keep the rational mind so utterly consumed with administrative tasks that it simply has no time to invent its own stories or interpret the incoming data. Stage 1, the coordinate and the ideogram. The viewer is given absolutely zero information regarding the target. They see no pictures, hear no descriptive words, and receive no hints. They are simply read a purely random 8-digit number string that serves as a cosmic case number for the target, such as 84003/1 927. Within a fraction of a second, the viewer must make a quick, spontaneous mark with their pen on the paper. This mark, known as an ideogram, is the unconscious, purely motor response of the physical body to the incoming information signal. Stage 2 and 3, sensory and dimensional decryption. The viewer mentally decodes the drawn ideogram to extract fundamental physical characteristics. They document whether the target feels liquid, solid, metallic, warm, cold, artificial, or natural. In stage 3, initial dimensional distances, lines of motion, and rough, perspective sketches of the target site begin to emerge on the page. Stage 4, the matrix. Here, the viewer opens a highly complex grid-like matrix across their paper. They force their consciousness to categorize the incoming data rigidly. The matrix cleanly separates raw physical elements from the emotional impressions of any people present at the scene, and further separates those from intangible aspects, such as the political mood or the underlying purpose of a building. In this stage, data is deeply filtered. Stage 5, signal interrogation. the viewer enters into a deliberate, methodical dialogue with their own subconscious. They select a single, stable descriptive word from their Stage 4 matrix, such as the word metallic, and drill down psychically. Through this targeted interrogation, they unlock hidden sub-attributes, such as the material's exact density, age, level of wear, or specific function. Stage 6. Kinetic modeling. This is the most fascinating phase of the entire process. In Stage 6, the viewer moves beyond mere writing. They utilize modeling clay or plasticine to hastily construct three-dimensional shapes, physically gripping the geometry and spatial relationships of the target with their hands. Buchanan explained that this tactile, motor work completely bypasses the rational mind, releasing startlingly precise architectural and structural data that the viewer could never have drawn visually. Through this extraordinarily rigid framework, the conscious mind is forced to focus entirely on the meticulous execution of the protocol rather than spinning narratives. Buchanan emphasized repeatedly, controlled remote viewing is not a state of trance. You sit in a brightly lit room at a standard table, writing with a pen on paper, keeping a log like an accountant. It is the cold transformation of vague, timeless impulses into a clean, militarily actionable data matrix. The theoretical models that Lyn Buchanan formulated regarding the human mind are built directly upon his decades of experience analyzing thousands of remote viewing sessions. He views human consciousness as a three-tiered system operating via a fundamental interface he calls the seventh sense. While the classic five senses inform us about our immediate physical surroundings, and the sixth sense is often described as a vague gut intuition, the seventh sense is the sense of the broader ambient environment, the innate capability to decode the energetic and informational signature of any given point in space and time. This three-pillar model of the mind is divided into distinct operational layers according to Buchanan. The topmost layer is the everyday conscious mind. It is the smallest, but by far the loudest part of the psyche. It filters reality, thinks in words, utilizes language, and operates entirely within linear time. While this conscious layer is vital for survival in the material world, its non-stop chattering blocks out the delicate whispering signals originating from the deeper layers of the mind. Beneath it lies the personal subconscious. This functions as a gargantuan internal hard drive belonging to the individual. Buchanan explains that this subconscious stores absolutely everything a human being has ever experienced. It forgets nothing. It knows exactly what phone number you had at 3 years old, and it registers every single visual nuance that has ever brushed past your eyes. However, it does not communicate using words. It speaks exclusively through symbols, physiological sensations, and physical motor responses. The deepest component is the non-local information field, the universal database. This is where Buchanan's theories interface with modern quantum physics and metaphysical concepts. The human subconscious is viewed here not as an isolated island, but as a node connected to a universal information network. Within this field, past, present, and future exist simultaneously as accessible data structures. Regarding the dimension of time, Buchanan developed a profound philosophy. He stated that while the past exists as a fixed data structure, it is incredibly difficult for the human mind to view it without error. It is like trying to trace a single, undamaged thread through a massive, tangled ball of yarn. The future, on the other hand, does not exist as a rigid, predetermined block of stone. It is a dynamic, highly fluid web woven out of countless probability lines. The further a remote viewer attempts to look into the future, for instance several decades ahead, the more inaccurate and out of focus the data becomes. The reason for this is mathematical. Every free choice made by billions of conscious individuals in the here and now permanently shifts these energetic timelines. Remote viewing the future, therefore, never reveals an unalterable fate. but simply the most mathematically probable timeline based on the conditions present at the exact moment of the session. From this understanding, Buchanan derived his unyielding rule for training, the absolute necessity of verifiable feedback. A monumental mistake made in civilian remote viewing is placing beginners on so-called esoteric targets, such as asking what the far side of the moon looks like, whether a galactic federation exists, or what style of beard Jesus wore. Buchanan argued that without immediate physical feedback in the form of photographs, official documents, or hard facts delivered directly after a session, the human brain can never learn to distinguish between a genuine psychic signal and a vivid imagination. Controlled remote viewing is an exact science. We do not train anyone without hard feedback. When a viewer finishes a session, they must immediately look at the real data. This is the only way they can compare and learn. This is where I was accurate. And this is where my analytical overlay deceived me. Only when a viewer boasts a statistically proven database showing 80% accuracy for shapes and 90% accuracy for colors on real, verifiable objects can they be assigned to speculative historical targets. Because only then can we mathematically calculate how reliable their data truly is. Lyn Buchanan. Lyn Buchanan's operational accounts frequently read like passages from a political thriller laced with elements of existential dread. During his time at Fort Meade, the unit was deployed to analyze numerous geopolitical flashpoints. A prominent example occurred in 1981, following the kidnapping of General James L. Dozier by the Italian Red Brigades. The unit's remote viewers worked around the clock to narrow down the general's location. Buchanan and his colleagues provided precise environmental descriptions that ultimately helped authorities establish an exact search radius near Padua, leading to his rescue. Yet the daily work of a remote viewer was psychologically exhausting. This was due to a phenomenon known as emotional contagion, parapsychological empathy. When a remote viewer describes a target, they do not simply watch it as if looking at a distant video monitor. They experience it with all of their physical senses. If the target is a hostage held captive in a damp, freezing cellar under the immediate threat of death, the viewer actually feels the bitter cold creeping into their own limbs, smells the stagnant rot of the room, and experiences the raw, pounding panic of the victim. Buchanan reported that these emotional telemetric feedbacks routinely pushed the unit's soldiers to the absolute brink of psychological collapse. Alongside standard military reconnaissance missions, however, there were sessions that completely shattered the conventional boundaries of human understanding. Because the unit possessed the theoretical capacity to target any coordinate in the universe, viewers were frequently handed entirely blind coordinates. These targets were submitted by curious officers or high-level scientists within the Pentagon who kept the true nature of the coordinates hidden, leaving the viewers with zero context. In his memoirs, Buchanan describes multiple sessions where he was confronted with non-human intelligences and extraterrestrial structures. While investigating certain geographic anomalies on Earth, he repeatedly encountered installations buried deep underground or hidden beneath the ocean floor that exhibited technological signatures far beyond anything humanly possible. He described detailed cognitive interactions with the entities operating these facilities. The most terrifying aspect of these encounters was that some of these intelligences appeared to notice the remote viewing process itself. While human targets generally remained completely oblivious to being monitored from afar, Buchanan experienced a phenomenon he called mind hooking, a psychic counterattack. When viewing highly advanced or extraterrestrial targets, the foreign intelligence would look straight back down the mental channel, locking eyes, so to speak, with the viewer. This left Buchanan suffering from days of intense disorientation, severe physical migraines, and the terrifying sensation that someone was actively rummaging through his own mind looking for data. He concluded that there appear to be several distinct types of extraterrestrial presences operating within the universe. Some behaved with absolute indifference toward humanity, acting like scientists observing an anthill. Others, however, exhibited a deep, almost manipulative interest in human consciousness structures and the military potentials of the Earth. The credibility of Lyn Buchanan is anchored firmly in the deep respect he commands from his immediate colleagues and even from critical observers of the parapsychological field. In an arena that is highly susceptible to charlatanism, fragile egos, and wild exaggerations, he is widely regarded as the voice of reason and methodological precision. His colleague, the legendary Major Joseph Mac Monagle, renowned as remote viewer #1 for the Stargate project, and one of the most accurate psychic spies in United States history, frequently spoke of Buchanan's unique role within the unit. Lyn Buchanan was not just another viewer on our team. He was the man who brought order to the chaos. With his background in data processing, he understood perfectly that a psychic signal is entirely useless if you cannot catalog it, analyze it, and evaluate it statistically. His discipline was absolute. In a department that was constantly in danger of drifting off into the fantastic, Lyn held us firmly to the ground of reality. When Lyn stated that a data point was reliable, we knew it had been dragged through the absolute hardest filters of the CRV protocol. Joseph Mac Monagle. Similarly, Dr. Paul H. Smith, another veteran of the Stargate project and the author of the military's official CRV training manual, highlights Buchanan's unique analytical brilliance. What makes Lyn so extraordinary is his absolute refusal to present himself as some sort of guru or enlightened master. He understood the system like a machine. He shows people the actual gears of the mind. His teaching methods are so effective precisely because they are rooted in cold logic, not in blind faith. He completely shattered the myth of the chosen ones and proved that the military approach of structured, repetitive training works for anyone willing to invest the hard labor required. Dr. Paul H. Smith. Even critical analysts who remain deeply skeptical of the operational utility of remote viewing within intelligence agencies grant Buchanan a unique status. In a comprehensive historical review of the Fort Meade operations, it was noted, Lyn Buchanan's story only feels mystical to those who prefer burning incense over doing paperwork. If you strip away the romance, you are left with a career army man caught in the cogs of a bureaucracy that, at times, behaved like a lucid dream with a government badge. He is the most dangerous witness to the reality of this program. He is relentlessly boring in his consistency, highly document-oriented, and completely devoid of messianic fantasies. Anyone who wants to understand how the Cold War pushed rational soldiers into unimaginable roles must study Buchanan. Analysis from the Dark Forest, the quiet operative of Fort Meade. The year 1995 marked the official dramatic conclusion of Project Stargate, leaving the close-knit community of military remote viewers standing in a landscape of administrative ruins. The CIA had commissioned the American Institutes for Research, commonly known as AIR, to conduct an independent scientific evaluation of the program to determine whether federal tax dollars should continue to fund it. This evaluation quickly devolved into a bitter political and scientific tug-of-war between two profound experts, the renowned statistician Dr. Jessica Utz and the deeply skeptical psychologist Dr. Ray Hyman. Dr. Jessica Utz, after completing a rigorous mathematical analysis of thousands of operational and laboratory sessions, arrived at a sensational conclusion. She officially determined that the statistical results achieved by the remote viewers were undeniably real. The hit rates landed so far outside the realm of pure chance that parapsychological effects had to be considered proven under all standard laws of empirical science. Dr. Ray Hyman, while begrudgingly admitting that these massive statistical anomalies did indeed exist, argued from a completely different intelligence perspective. He emphasized that remote viewing data was simply too imprecise, vague, and unreliable for the unforgiving real-world theater of espionage. An intelligence chief could not comfortably order troop movements or make critical nuclear deployment decisions based on data that, while statistically significant in a laboratory setting, remained highly prone to error in individual instances. This scientific stalemate handed the political opponents of the program the perfect pretext. Project Stargate was officially defunded and terminated. For Buchanan, however, this was not a defeat, but rather the logical outcome of a system that had tried to force a highly delicate human cognitive tool using the heavy crowbar of military pressure and immediate operational demands. He saw his true life's mission as liberating the technology of controlled remote viewing from the shackles of government classification and making it available to the civilian world. He relocated to Alamogordo, New Mexico, where he established the company Problems, Solutions, Innovations, and built his remote viewing school. In his civilian career, Buchanan focused heavily on clearly defined application areas where controlled remote viewing could leverage its unique strengths. A major area is medical diagnostics. Here, Buchanan developed specialized protocols allowing remote viewers to scan the human body at a cellular level. The objective is to localize diseases, structural blockages, or genetic defects long before they become visible to the classic imaging technologies used in mainstream Western medicine. Another massive field involves corporate consulting and forensics. In the corporate world, the method is utilized by Buchanan's graduates to forecast market and future industry trends, while in forensic work, it helps law enforcement agencies search for hidden evidence or track down leads. Finally, the method found a home in archaeology and historical reconstruction. By intentionally targeting historical coordinates, viewers can pinpoint the exact locations of undiscovered ruins or investigate the true sequence of historical events for which no written records survive. However, the deeply humane and ethical masterpiece of his civilian career was the creation of the Assigned Witness Program. Lyn Buchanan steadfastly refused to exploit his talents for quick commercial profit on the lucrative New Age market. Instead, he built an organized network in which he and his most capable graduates worked completely free of charge, pro bono, alongside local U.S. police departments and the FBI. Whenever traditional investigative methods ran into a dead end, these psychic spies volunteered to search for missing persons and abducted children. They provided detectives with vital clues regarding hiding places, described the immediate physical surroundings where victims were being held captive, or drew sketches of suspects. This program broke through the cold, purely geopolitical framework of military espionage and highlighted Buchanan's profound moral compass. It was no longer about international power plays. It was about bringing closure and certainty to devastated families. Simultaneously, Buchanan's fiercest battle in civilian life remained his ongoing war against the rampant charlatanism running wild within the spiritual community. He invested tremendous energy into publicly exposing fraudsters who preyed upon the gullibility and grief of vulnerable people for financial gain. He reminded the public untiringly that anyone who claims to see with 100% accuracy is a charlatan. True remote viewing is always a statistical game of probabilities, an imperfect, heavily static-filled radio channel communicating with the subconscious mind that can only be harnessed through unyielding protocols, deep personal humility, and continuous self-correction. The enduring legacy of Lyn Buchanan does not reside in sensational tales of underground alien bases or rescued generals. It lies in his profound, systematic demystification of the paranormal. By stripping the phenomenon of remote viewing of all occult ballast and describing it as a purely mechanical, cognitive process, he made it accessible to humanity as a whole. He demonstrated to the world that the seventh sense is not a rare genetic privilege belonging to a handful of mystical chosen individuals, but a universal biological heritage wired into the human mind. His theories and protocols forge a fascinating bridge between the chilly, bureaucratic pragmatism of the military, the mathematical riddles of quantum mechanics, and the limitless expanses of the human subconscious. Lyn Buchanan proved that you do not need to be a mystic to gaze into the infinite sometimes. All it takes is a properly maintained protocol, a pencil, and a blank sheet of paper.